Alright, this is take number 3. Let me tell you what, I have had nothing but problems putting these heads on. Well, I will explain this in as best detail as I can of what's happened. These were not in, I bought new head bolts because, as I told you guys before, you know, there was no heads on this one I got. Well, it had heads, they just weren't on it. So I had to buy head bolts, which you need to do anyway whenever you're doing this. So these head bolts were Fel-Pro brand. Not cussing Fel-Pro, that's what I've always used. I didn't know they made bolts, but this is what AutoZone could get for me. Anyway, it's they have a sealer on them. I thought it was a Loctite, but now I believe it's a sealer. Well, what happened was, yesterday when I put this head on in my first video, the passenger side head, I was running it down. The book says run them down by finger tight, and then 22 pounds in sequence with the torque wrench, and then you do your 90 degrees and then 90 degrees. What I was running into was I had two of them that were 22 pounds, even going down. And, okay, let me start over. Going down by hand was impossible. As soon as the bolt hit, you know, as soon as that sealer hit the threads, it was done. It would not turn. I had to use a wrench all the way down. Some of them were really tight. Some of them weren't so bad. But the problem with the really tight ones were, once I got them down, when I put the torque wrench on them, they were already past 22 pounds. And one of them was 22 pounds, and it wasn't even touching the head yet. The base of the bolt wasn't even touching. I mean, it's the shoulder, I guess I should say. This wasn't even touching the head yet, and because of that, I was clicking at 22 pounds, and the bolt was still moving. So I knew it wasn't touching. So I had some issues with that. So today I decided to do something a little different. So I stuck the head on, started tightening it, putting the bolts in, and they were all going in just as hard as the others. I was getting a little aggravated with it and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And these are multi-layered gaskets, almost all the LSR. They got three, it's kind of a 3-layer deal. But anyway, so I did this. It has not been compressed. Don't think that I've damaged this or anything. Then I put the head on, which I've just cleaned the block, cleaned the head, and I started putting the bolts in, and they were just as tight. And one of them, this end one here, the back of the block was, I mean, I couldn't get it all the way tight. It was that bad. I couldn't get it to touch the shoulder. So it was obvious I had some garbage in the threads. Now, I thought I cleaned all them out, so I must have either missed that one, or when it was at the machine shop, which I really did not redo them. I usually do any engine I do, the second I get a part cleaned up, I run every tap through every bolt. Well, I'm kind of limited on metric taps. Not anymore, but that was the case. And I still do not have a tap for these. These are 11 millimeter, like a 2 or 2.5 or something like that pitch. Nobody has one in town. So what I used was the old brush on the end of the drill and some brake cleaner, and I cleaned all the holes back out. And sure enough, I got crap out of every one of them. So I ended up putting a bit of oil on these too, because these have already been down, and that stuff just bunched right up, that sealer that was on there. So I'm not going to tell you to take the sealer off these bolts before you put them on if you happen to buy them that already has sealer on them, but I have had nothing but trouble with them with it on there. So with that said, I'm going to clean these bolts back off, because the sealer that was on there is mostly gone now anyway, and I'm probably going to put a dab of oil on the end of each one of them. That is what I always did with a Gen 1. I'm not saying that's how you're supposed to do it. I would not do what I am doing unless you know what you're doing, or you got research, you've done this before, which I guarantee if you're watching this video, you probably have not done any build on them. You're kind of learning like I'm doing as I'm just going here. So I'm just putting a dab of oil on these just because I just, this is what I've always done, you know, on the Gen 1s I always did. And yes, there was sealer on there, and you're probably not supposed to do this. Right now I've only got 33 subscribers, so probably not going to get whined at too much from, from too many people right off the bat. Later on, maybe if my channel ever does take off, which I'm not expecting it to, so, you know. Matter of fact, I'm surprised I got 33 people even half interested in doing watching what I'm doing. But it's kind of cool. I watch a guy, it's in Pennsylvania. He does a lot of stuff buying old Copart cars, called Unwrecked, I believe it is. Cool guy. He's doing stuff on a budget. He buys cars from Copart, which is a, if anybody's ever watched or seen it, it's actually Coparts is a, basically it's a place where you bid on cars online, usually wrecked, or there's some other reasons that they're there, but generally they've been wrecked. And he's kind of careful the ones he buys, because he's in Pennsylvania and they have a lot of different rules in different states on cars that have had previous damage, not only on titles but on how you get them back on the road again. I have never done a salvage title car. They call them R titles there in Pennsylvania. I don't know what Kansas does on them, but I have been told that if you buy a car that has a previous, well, basically what they consider to be totaled out for whatever reason, if you buy one and you fix it, you have to take it up to the highway patrol. Same place if I buy a car from that didn't have a title, that's over 35 years old, and I'm trying to get an antique title for it, like I did that 68 Chevelle wagon. That was something that was mandatory, was I had to take it up there with a bill of sale and a bunch of other stuff. And anyway, all right, every one of these has just a little bit, there ain't very much on here, it's just enough to kind of get this started. Okay, now, you probably didn't notice because I was in a hurry and didn't show you, because this is the third time through and I'm kind of aggravated. I need to get this done. All these bolts are this long. 8 of them are. However, there's 2 that are this long. They go in the 2 ends. The other ones are and then you've got 5. These are 11 millimeter. These are 8, and they go up here. These are the last things you actually torque, because they're small and I don't really, you know, but I start them, I'm not really tightening them down. Now, I learned that a long time ago. Start all your doggone bolts before you tighten anything down. These still have, I didn't put any oil on these, and I did because they're small. They only go to 22 pounds anyway, so. Okay. Now that everything is cleaned out and that stuff is mostly gone, let's see how these go down. Oh, that's so much better. I was actually using this breakover bar and pulling the engine around. Some of these things were so tight. So that sealer, I hate to say this, I would take the sealer off. That's just me, guys. Don't do what I say unless you really do your research and understand. I do this as a hobby. This is not my job. This is not my daily driver. This will not be my daily driver. It may be my wife's for a little while. I'm not saying I do give her a piece of crap, but I am not, you know what I'm saying? I'm building this engine on a budget, and I am trying to do this entire engine build start to finish for under $1,000 and I'm getting really close to that dollar amount as it is with actually the purchase of the motor. Even I'm doing this for $1,000. I'd actually have to get, I'll need to go get my receipts out because I pretty much have receipts on everything I'm doing. But basically, it was $70 for the machine work. It was $200 for the engine and bottom gasket set, the upper gasket set, piston rings, rod, main bearings was probably $300 as a guess, and that was head bolts. I'm trying to remember what else I bought. I had to buy separate. Oh, oil pump was $50. Timing chain was 40 something. I can't remember now. I have receipts on all of it though, and I'll kind of go through it, take a peek at it, and see what it is. But I think I can get this motor completely finished. And mind you, the plugs and wires were just replaced before I bought it, so I plan on reusing those. The coil packs, obviously. So most of that stuff I'm not super concerned about as far as how much use is on them. I did buy a new oil sending unit, and the reason why is because this one was not only broke, but this was a 2000, late 2000 engine. Most of the date codes on her after August of 2000, so it's either considered a 2000, 2001. Every one of your sensors are the same through 04. Actually up until 05, I believe, or something. But what is not the same is the oil sending unit changed somewhere in there. When I did the 03 Avalanche, I believe, no, that's not true. The 04 6-liter I put in my 01 Suburban had a different oil sending unit on it, but pretty much everything else is the same. So just keep that in mind. There's this little thing, but I'm using the crank sensor, the cam sensor out of the engine that's in there because I didn't have any codes on those, so I'm reusing those. And the plugs and wires are being reused. The other LS motor over there, this thing is still getting tight. This is the one that gave me a fit, but at least it's going down. Finally made contact. That one, I mean, I could not get that thing. It still had a gap. You know, it's probably quarter inch or better. I could not get that thing to go down any further. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna, that other LS over there, that 5.3 that's on that stand, I want to pull the valve covers. The coil packs are on it. Actually came off the Avalanche. I was experimenting on the mist it had. So I'll put those coil packs back on, and then I've got a that valley pan goes in the center. I'll take off that motor over there too. I will not put it on, however, yet because I built a plate. I don't know if I put it on another video or because I've done 3 for just this. I really don't know. These things are actually going to 22 pounds, so be really careful how tight you actually get them because they're the last things you do. I'm just taking them down to snug because 22 pounds is not that much. Anyway, where was I going with that? Yeah, okay, anyway, I'm going to get this thing sealed up today. I'm going to put the balancer on it. I'm going to put the rack in it. I've got push rods on this side already. I'll put the push rods in here and I'll put the rack on and then put the valve covers in. Probably get oil filter. I don't have that yet. I do see one thing I need to do down here in this valley. There's it's where your knock sensors go. There's a gap. It's kind of a gasket. I don't even know if I got that or not with that set. I may have to go buy those separate. I'll have to look. Anyway, it's kind of a funky looking gasket. It goes in the center of that. Yeah, I may do a video on it showing you that. I see that there's still a piece of that hung there, so I'm going to take it off. And there's also this crossover pipe for the water is not there, and then there's 2 caps that go on the back, and they're both MIA too. That motor back here also has them, so I'll probably take them off of that just so I can get this sealed up. I want it pretty much sealed up. Okay, now here is the deal. Get everything ready to go. I am at, what am I at here? 21, 22 pounds. That's how you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These little ones are 11, 12, 13, 14. If you follow the steps, which is a few pages back, these are the last things you do. You do all the torque sequence on the bottom 10 first, and then you go to the top 11 through 15. These 2 end ones, 9 and 10, are the shorter of the bolts I showed you. When you get all these to 22 pounds, then you take all these 90 degrees. That's step 1 is 22 pounds for all of them. Step 2 is 90 degrees advanced on all of them, or tighten, however you want to call it. And then you go to step 3, which is 90 degrees on all of them except 9 and 10, which only go to 50 degrees. And then all of these little ones, when you go through them when we're done with the big ones, are going to be 11 through 15, with the sequence 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, are only 22 pounds, period. Okay, with that said, here's my problem. And I've always cussed having to do this. Because of how deep this is, and the same with the angle doesn't matter, but with how deep this is, I had to put, springs are in the way, these down here are in the way, this is kind of a bad deal. I don't like using an extension on a torque wrench. I personally don't like doing it. To me, now we have a couple of other places here, instead of just one connection from here to the socket, now you've got this thing here in the center. To me, that they could twist, give a little, I don't know. I'm probably just blowing this up, especially 22 pounds, it's not gonna make that much difference. But when you're going 90, 100, 120 pounds, man, I just don't like using an extension on it. Besides that, you can get this thing off of a lot more of an angle when you have that height there, but I'm not worried about it right now. All right, 22 pounds, number one. I don't know if you heard that, but it did click. Number two is the exact opposite to this one. That's 2. I believe this one is 3. 1, 2. Nope, this is 3. And 4 is down here. I believe this is 5 now. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. This is 5. Uh, 6 is this one. 7. 8. 9. 10. Now, here's the thing I like about the torque is I can actually come back and check these, which that actually get more than I thought it was going to. Maybe I'm not supposed to recheck these. I don't know. Because that crushable gasket, you know what, I probably better stop doing that. Okay, now we got to go through it again at 90 degrees. Oh, wrong end. Try this again. Let's go this way. This is not simple because, boy, everything is kind of in the way and not wanting to cooperate. Okay, 90 degrees. Yeah, sit there where you belong. It's the first 90. It's number 1. Uh-oh. My piece of junk gave up. Well, I know that had to be at least 60. Yeah, the O-ring's giving up on this thing and it's causing it to bind. Boy, I'm glad I buy Chinese garbage. Alright, where's number 3 at here? Good quality equipment. Not going past it. And number 3. 4. Five. Six. Seven. Eight. Nine. Let me tell you what, these end ones are pretty tough. I don't really want to push against the spring, so I'm down here on the base of the Ah, 10. Got to start all over again. All right, step 3. Another 90 degrees on all but the 2 end ones we just did. Those only go 50. So number 1, another 90. And I got to put my foot on this thing to stop it from trying to take off across the floor. 80, 90. You're hard on an old man. 1. This is 2. And that's 90. 3. See what I'm talking about, having that extension and stuff. Boy, it's just everything in here is just kind of a pain to get to. I'm going to have to step around right in front of the camera. 3. 4 is down here. Ain't it? 4. 5 straight up. Yep. Five. I think this one's 6. Because, let me think here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. Sorry I had to count. Oh man. And that's 6. I'm probably going to move the motor on the stand, the whole stand. Walking in front of the camera again. Sorry. That's 6. No, that's 7. This is 8. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good grief, losing my mind. You don't want to forget one of these. 8. Now these only get 50. These two. Let me tell you what, they're tough already. That's 50. That's number 9. I just broke my temperature sensor. I had a feeling that was going to happen. No, I wasn't on it. This one's kind of this is a pain. These things are yeah, 50 degrees. And in your way again, I know. Oh crap. Oh shoot, oh shoot, shoot, shoot. This is tough. Alright, why are we not turning here? 25. There's 50. Wow! That was fun. And we get the torque. 111. This is kind of a pain. I'm going to show you what happened. Alright, this is pretty simple setup, right? But I had to go to 3/8 drive and a 3/8 socket because it'll go on here, but the one I use for what I call the impact, it won't go on there because of that boss sticking out on either end. So you have to go down. I had to go down to 3/8 anyway. Alright, this is technically number 11, 22 pounds. It's 11. Well, 13. 14. 15. All right, guys. That's how I did this head. The other one I did not do it like this because I was still fighting that sealer. I hope that they really didn't have to have the sealer. I assume they go down in the water jacket. I didn't see the old head bolts. I've never pulled a head on one of these. So not seeing the old head bolt or taking the engine apart to begin with, I have no idea if they were in the water jacket or not. Being so the throwaway bolts, I wouldn't be surprised if they were, because it really doesn't make that much difference. You're going to throw them away anyway if you take the thing apart. But I really do not know. So with that said, I know this head is right. So what I'm probably going to do is get my torque wrench out, and I'm going to start going up 20-pound increments at a time until I move one of these head bolts, the bigger ones, 11 millimeter. And that's what I'm going to guess is what the actual set is supposed to be. I'll try to average it out between 3 or 4 of them. And then I'm going to go back to this other head because I do not want to take it off. I've already stretched the bolts. It's already smashed the gasket. Although there's no heat cycle through it, or I don't want to do it. But I'm going to check every one of those bolts at the bottom to see if they actually are tight, because it bothers me. To me, you can't really over tighten them if you don't get Clovis-y. Now don't get me wrong, I know you can screw it up, but like I said, I won't know until we get it on the road. It may never fail, but if it fails on one side or the other, I know I did either one wrong or the other wrong. And if I ever have a failure, I definitely will tell you guys, because if you're trying to figure out how to do one of these on your own, or you're trying to follow me or 15 other guys that's been doing this, everybody does it different. Everybody gets their parts from a different place, and some of them are reusing the head studs. I actually know a guy in a machine shop who said that he reuses the bolts. That scares me to death, because if it says throw them away, throw them away. If they were fine thread, I might, but being so these are such a coarse thread, man, I just don't think so. to me, they're cheap assurance, you know what I mean? So anyway, guys, this is where I'm at right now. I'm going to go ahead and do some checking on some other stuff. Next time you see it, I'm going to put the push rods in, start putting the rack on. I'll probably have an oil and filter by then, and I'm going to go ahead and pour a little oil on everything to get started. Then I'll put the valve covers on and start getting stuff sealed up with the balancer and stuff like that on. So that's where we're at so far, guys. Head install on the old 4.8.